Retro Future.
Hello everyone, Bonzard here of Radio Retro Future. This is a really quick video, so no elaborate editing or anything, as I'm working on my Fallout radio station's second season. Anyway, let's get started. Recently, my fellow YouTuber Captain Glennwell made a vlog, Why All the Weapons in Steampunk? He's talking about the costuming within the community, and it's a bit of a stickler for some, including myself. This is a very good question, a matter I wanted to discuss for a while, and lightly touched upon in episode number 5 of the Steampunk Beginner's Guide on Characters. Maybe I'll make a video in the future on what weapons could be suitable for individual characters. But yes, sometimes it bothers me. But more for the aesthetic/narrative perspective than the moral one. I'm talking about when weapons clash with the rest of the costume. Why does a person dressed as a typical gentleman need a bloody minigun? Why does a proper lady need a gun the size of a Space Marine bolt pistol? Well, maybe they didn't want to go empty-handed to an event. Or maybe the costume is incomplete, but they wanted to show off their guns anyhow. But I can't help to think they, I mainly mean beginners, feel obligated to paint a Nerf gun and take it with them because others do so. But also, let's be frank here, weapons attract an audience, including photographers. But that aside, I share many of the steampunk's frustrations on this subject. It is also the reason my character Dankard only has a knife, with a secondary function, and my ragtag character the Corporal wields a blade. But let's skim over some of the motivations to use weapons as props. First is the matter of personal taste. Some people, like myself, practice martial arts, or marksmanship, or simply have a fascination with weapons in general. So this is reflected in their other hobbies. This extends to the narratives these people create around their characters. Popular types of characters include pirates, soldiers, mercenaries, law enforcers, investigators, explorers, and mad inventors, just to name a few. Bearing weapons is kind of par for the course for such professions. In other words, it would bring up more questions when they don't carry weapons than if they did. The reason for the prevalence of such characters is the many influences on which steampunk is based, like science fiction, cyberpunk, superhero comics, noir, post-apocalyptic settings, and I almost forgot history itself. The point is that steampunk has more in common with Mad Max than any soap opera. Even in the utopian future of Gene Roddenberry, violence is still prevalent and away teams still bring phasers on their away missions. Just like Star Trek, steampunk deals a lot with exploring the unknown and hostile territory, no matter what stereotypes you're talking about. Besides practical use, weapons also have a symbolic meaning. Weapons are not just for self-defense, they also could symbolize a character's willingness to use them. For example, there's a big difference between a priest with a gun than one without it. And that's the rule of show don't tell again. That is why people carrying weapons without proper motivation annoy me the way it does. So to say, you're not convincing me you are an ambassador who carries a 40mm grenade launcher. Speaking of show don't tell, bearing arms can also be a sign of status. Like nobles being the only ones allowed to bear swords within city limits during the late Middle Ages. Officers often carried dressing swords to announce they were men of rank. And so did samurai, etc, etc. So it's also a trope of the era many steampunks depict. And some steampunks tend to be sticklers for historical accuracy on such matters, so it makes total sense. The last one is a bit contentious, but I think this one is very true. The matter of self-defense. And I am one of those horrible people who believe one's own safety is one's own responsibility. As steampunks, they're often about exploring dangerous territory. Weapons for self-defense are a necessity. And if you don't want to defend yourself, you will need to bring someone who does it for you. As for anyone who does not prepare for any worst-case scenario, well, I don't want to get into what happens to naive people in the real world. Case in point, steampunks love to tell stories through their appearance, and stories thrive on conflict. These conflicts often get resolved through violence in one form or another. Let's face it, humans like violence, whether we want to admit it about ourselves or not. This is not an endorsement, by the way. It is just why we like stuff like Game of Thrones and Hardcore Henry. It's not specifically a problem for the steampunk community, but the wider use of weapons within pop culture in general. I know some viewers don't like it when I say this, but Steampunk draws a lot of inspiration from pop culture. So there. Now, this video is not an endorsement for the prevalence of weapons as props. No, I'm saying that weapons are important narrative devices that can be used well or poorly, and I would like to see it used well. Would that also mean less weapons on display? Probably. So the question I would like to ask you, dear viewer, why do your steampunk characters bear arms? What characters who don't bear arms could we use more of within the community? Also, what do you think are good alternatives for self-defense that don't require weapons and could be incorporated into costume? So I hope that was a satisfactory answer to the questions why all the weapons. So this is a really minimal effort video. Let me know if you want me to make more such opinionated videos, because that could increase my output considerably. Currently I'm working on a new video about technology in steampunk and also the Fallout radio station, which is coming really soon. And after that project is completed, I might be looking at an original audio drama. So let me know if you'd be interested in participating in that. This is Bonsart, and as always, make it your way.